It's live already? Can you?
We are live. Are we live?
The question is, are you alive?
I'm alive because of this. No, but of course, excited. Looking forward to talk to Jiggy here. We've been working with events, but we rarely really sit down and discuss something.
You sound like the host already, man. Chill.
Diba? No, because it's live. We don't want them, just looking at us.
No. What we're trying to do, we're still trying to gather them to watch the show.
Okay.
Bro, is it up already on Passion Cafe TV or not yet? Guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to post it on my page and maybe ask you to share it as well.
Okay.
So they can watch it on our own
my
platforms.
Sige, go.
I'm just
Haven't
kidding.
done this
What?
on cam for a while. On cam
Really?
stuff. Yeah.
You should do this more often.
Yeah. I just want to have a break.
There it
and
is.
Then, yeah.
Hold on. Let me share it.
How do you call your viewers?
Mga Pilosopo.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Mga Pilosopo?
Yeah.
So your guests are
People that interest me.
mga Pilosopa.
Mga Pilosopa.
Mga people who are the
Okay.
source of their philosophy.
Okay, let's do this.
All right. Just looking at my Instagram, guys.
Oh, we have to speak real close to the microphone, Blinky.
Okay, sorry.
So you guys, if you have some questions, make sure you
Hello.
guys get ready with them.
Yeah,
Good afternoon.
wait.
Okay.
Before anything else, in this, no, it's okay.
Okay.
Leave it there.
Okay.
Since we are on the millennial age, let's story this one.
Okay, please.
Okay. All right, so we're live. Wait. Hi, Jiggy. Okay, there you go. Since this is related to our topic, everything you have to put it as a content.
Okay. Good afternoon, Blinky.
Good afternoon,
Nice to see you
Jiggy.
again.
Nice to see you as well, and to everyone.
Last time we saw each other, we were doing the Cebu
Event.
Country Club event, right?
Yes.
What was that again?
It was an awarding.
Cebu Land Masters,
for
right?
Cebu Land Masters.
I think Mr. Sobrano gave a lot of money there that evening.
Oh
right?
yeah, I remembered. It was like a random thing.
Yeah,
He just thought,
and he
oh yeah, let's give more
Yeah, he just
cash.
Yeah, why don't
Yeah,
we?
yeah, for the raffle. And then we were like, as hosts, we were like, can we hop in? Is it still possible?
Welcome
Yeah,
to the
it was
Pilosopo
fun.
podcast, Blinky.
Thanks for having me. And it's really exciting because Fridays I have nothing else to do, so I might as well be here and talk about some philosophy with our philosophy.
Blinky, of course, you wear a lot of hats. You're an entrepreneur.
Where is it?
You're a media sensation.
What? What?
You're also a formator / teacher, right? So you wear so many hats, and we're gonna try to delve into them one by one as we get through this interview. But first and foremost, as always, my favorite question is always, what is your spiritual, your family, your personal background that has led you to become who you are, Blinky De Leon? Take us through the short or the long story that led us to this moment right here, right now. All the factors, all the things that has contributed to become who you are now.
Okay, so there's it's funny because now that my aunt is back,
Okay.
I grew up with her. She still sees that in me, that childlike Blinky who would talk to her and so shy. I grew up so shy, you guys. I'm so shy. Like one of the things that I'm really weak at is talking to people. Until now, she sees that version of me because I think shyness, you don't get rid of it entirely. It's really part of your personality. So what I was able to hone myself with is the ability to manage my shyness. So I was able to learn it over time that shyness is something you can set aside when the need arises for you to step up and be confident, right? I was able to manage that. But of course, it takes a lot of exposure, a lot of mentors, a lot of people to meet and be inspired of. But it's really funny because Blinky, who was still a kid, still has that shyness in her. Like, it's really funny when I see my aunt. She still can't believe I host events. She still can't believe I had a TV show, as a matter of fact. So let me get you through that formation. So that's why I'm a formator, because it's really coming from my personal experience. So I take it from there. When I was young, I grew up with a multicultural environment because I have a Filipino mom and I have a European dad who is German and Moroccan. It's a bit confusing which culture to follow, to be quite honest, because they live separately, so they weren't really together when the moment I entered this world. But it's not an unfortunate thing at all, because I was always filled with the right amount of love growing up. But then there's the so there's just some things or factors that affected that kind of environment. So, but then again, I don't really consider my family as something broken, because they always see it like when your mom and dad are not together. Oh, you belong to a broken family.
Yeah.
I'm like,
what
no.
is that? What's up with that, right?
No, because I don't feel broken. That's to begin with.
That's actually
it's
very
just
cultural.
very cultural, but the word is too strong. Come on, guys. You can't consider, your parents are going through their phase. And I grew up thinking that how come they're not together in one roof? But I never questioned them in terms of their love for me, because I never saw them fighting. What if they end up together, but then in front of my eyes, they were always fighting? It would be worse than them separate. So I was okay. I never had that, what do you call this? Frustration from my dad being.
So you never had that urge for them to get back together again and all that
not
stuff?
at all. I see my dad, he comes around. But that's how I started thinking about my weaknesses. So, okay, I'm with my dad, but I can't talk to him. I don't know how to deal with him because I don't have a connection with him. So that made me so shy, because growing up, I didn't know my dad. That was like the starting point.
Why didn't you know your dad? I mean, like, did you have?
He was in Germany.
Okay.
Yeah, he didn't stay in the Philippines when I was born.
So when did you sort of reunite with your dad?
I reunited my dad. I opened my heart to my dad pretty late, to be quite honest, because every time he reaches out to me, it's always like a shock. It wasn't a surprise, because my dad is actually a very affectionate person. He's a very sweet person. That's just who he is. He would pop out in my school and surprise me, and things like that.
So what was your
but
feeling?
I'm not prepared for it, because
Was it delight or dread?
it's dread. It's negative, because I look at him. I know he's my dad, but he is just a complete stranger. I didn't have a connection with him.
So
because
there was a long gap in which you didn't see each other.
yes.
Like when did you
We don't
reunite?
see each other for 6 years,
6
and then he
years.
comes in the next 2 years. So
Okay.
it's really random that he
Okay.
pops out, and I'm not prepared, because I already have this comfort zone in me living with, these set of people that I got used to, and here comes someone who they said my dad, and they're so happy. Oh, your dad is here. I'm like, what? My dad is here.
That's my dad.
I'm not ready for it, because again, he's a stranger in my eyes, and
Okay.
it's just confusing. It's a
Okay.
confusing time for me. Like, I was already okay not having him around.
Okay.
I was in my comfort zone, but here he comes randomly trying to reach out. I didn't see the beauty of it,
Okay.
because to be honest, I know it's short-lived. He's just gonna come and leave anyway.
Okay.
So I think as a child, you have an issue with trust and mistrust on people. That's just one of the things I studied in psychology, that in your developmental stage, that's why I took up psychology, because there's so much need
Trying
to
to figure
understand
yourself out.
myself. Yeah, and I like the course because it deals with life in general, so it's so applicable right away. Unlike other courses, you have to really finish it up before you really, earn everything
so
you've learned.
you didn't see your dad that often, and you developed a shyness. Okay?
Yes, that's how I got to a point where I observed that, oh my gosh, there's something wrong with me.
Okay.
Because people talk to him, but I don't. but he's my dad. So that's the alarming side of things.
Okay. It
How
was
come
you mentioned
I'm
it was your grandmother who noticed that it was becoming like a
yes,
thing.
the mom of my dad who was just around in Cebu. She was in the business of fashion, jewelry design, and as an entrepreneur, she was really good at it, and um, she was very, should I say, out there. You know what I mean? Very inspiring individual. She's been very um, empowered. I look at her as someone who's really done a lot in terms of the industry or the field she was in. In fact, until now, I hear stories that fashion designers started doing what they do because of my grandmother. That's kind of a big impact that she was able to do when she did her business. So
So it was her who pointed out that you were looking
yeah,
really
she
different.
saw that as a weakness, like, oh no, my granddaughter needs to improve that,
Her
side of
communication
her
skills, right?
because it's very vital in
Okay.
everyday life. I mean, you cannot succeed if you don't know how to communicate. I mean, you have all the skill, but you don't know how to translate it and present it to people. It's gonna be useless. She saw that already coming, and she wanna do something about it right away. Because to be quite honest, it was my grandmother who filled in the shoes of my dad.
Okay.
So I would say she was my father figure in some sort, because financially she was also supporting me. So, but yeah, needless to say more, she did all the things perhaps that a child would or should do at that situation, because it was a case that's really alarming. So she went all the way, I mean, she really went out of the way rather from her busy schedule to take me to workshops,
Okay.
meet me to
What's
psychologists.
what sort of
and
workshops and what kind of psychologists did you
It's a personality
meet? Okay.
development. She even flew me to Manila to really do some workshops with, I remember the classes with bunch of kids. To be quite honest, I don't remember the lessons that was taught.
Okay, okay.
But I remembered it was something I need to work on. So beyond the workshops, I was already contemplating on myself, like, okay, I see this as a problem, so I need to work on it. So I train myself in such a way that, okay, what are the things that I need to do? Expose myself, right? So in school, I've became more active than ever in terms of extracurricular. So I love dancing. It was a form of self-expression. Um, Through that, I was able to learn how to get rid of shyness at in that amount of time when you perform. So I had that in me. It's just that I'm not completely there yet. I was always trying to find a way to train myself. And so I've also noticed that when I talk to my German side of family, I always felt like communication, there's a barrier because sometimes they talk in German.
Okay.
That's where.
But do you understand German?
No, that's where I feel insecure about myself as well, because the language barrier sometimes what you call this, hinders me from improving that skill. But good thing is, my grandmother, my aunt, or those my father's side, they also know how to speak Bisaya. So
So your grandmother enrolled you in all of these different self-esteem seminars and
Yes.
workshops. How did you end up in on television?
Okay,
Because your
the-
first gig was on ABS-CBN, right?
That was
At
my
the age of 17. Tell us
Yeah.
about how the
Okay.
journey to that TV show.
When I was in high school, I belonged to a Catholic school. It's a very strict school, very conservative. We're not allowed to be exposed on anything that has to do with beauty,
Okay.
like entertainment. So pageants, modeling, it was not supposed to be something we need. We will be part of.
Okay. So how did
So
you
high
end up there?
school, I was just really active inside what you call this, the campus, but then outside I have no exposure. That's why during high school my grandmother was able to, like I said, put me in workshops. But it was just then when I was into college where I was really overwhelmed because I found myself being part of an agency called MAC, or Model
A
Association.
modeling agency.
Yeah, that's actually the kickstart or the no stepping stone. before the TV.
Mhm.
When I started the Mac, few months later, there was a show coming in, a local show that they needed a host, and there was an audition. It was just a random day. I remember vividly that I didn't have a class, and I was my agent, Chikoy, Kuya Chikoy, called me. Maybe you want to try it out, and I was like thinking, okay, he saw something in me.
Okay.
I didn't see myself because the potential is sometimes something you cannot see but others can. Some people has that, ability to see potential in you. So that was my agent, and that's really how he is until now.
So you never had any television experience prior to that?
Zero. Not even a hosting stint in school.
Not even
Again,
like a public speaking thing, not even that.
nothing.
So this offer just came out of nowhere. Did it surprise you
It-
that people thought, especially your agent at that time,
Yes.
Chikoy mentioned, as you mentioned, saw that in you? Were you surprised?
To be honest, it boosted a lot of confidence in me
Okay.
because he was like so encouraging. You have a potential in this and that. I'm like, really? Because looking back, the most hosting related activity I've done is really like, classroom reporting.
Okay, so you have to
That
speak in
even
front
is
of everybody.
Nerve-wracking, right?
I can
when you
imagine, yeah.
present to your class,
To your peers, yeah.
and your teacher, it's, di ba? Like, what more doing a TV show? I'm like, but anyway,
So you're,
what
you're
enticed me to do it was, number one, I want to see for myself if it's for me. Second, I just want to check it out, I guess. It's something new. So the moment I got into college, everything was new to me. So I was pretty much excited about it. So the overwhelming excitement overshadowed my low self-esteem because it was something new. I still went there in my school uniform, and good thing I was able to, I guess, bring extra. Or I forgot. I was able to, I guess, borrow because I live far from the city. I live in Minglanilla. I can't just get clothes, go home and get clothes to go to the audition. But anyway, I did go, and I saw a lot of people, and I heard that these people are already doing event hosting, and they've done radio DJing, so they're pretty much very
experienced compared to you who
Compared
has
to
no
me.
media experience whatsoever.
So I think
So you were able to do the show Mag TV for about 10 years, a decade, right?
yes.
And
It was surprising that it lasted that long because to begin with, it was just an experiment.
a 10-year experiment. So after ABS-CBN, you ventured into other things. I imagine you also opened a
Self-esteem
self-esteem
school, yeah.
school called Selfie, and now of course you're a formator in one of the prestigious schools in Cebu. You teach self-esteem primarily, right? Explain to our viewers what exactly is self-esteem and
Okay.
how does one improve one's self-esteem, because I imagine that a person's self-esteem is really a combination of everything he has gone through in his life, from zero to where he is now, and for somebody to turn that boat around, that self-esteem boat around, is kind of a almost impossible task. First, tell everybody what self-esteem is,
Okay.
and number two, how do you turn things around from a shy person to becoming somebody with self-confidence, like what transformation happened to you?
Yeah. So to make it simple, self-esteem is how you look at yourself or your self-image. So not everyone has a strong foundation with that because not everyone is what do you call this? Not everyone have that in them to really have that shield against people to try to change that image in you, or when you get, for example, judged by people, which happens every day, right? Not everyone has that ability to be strong enough to have that shield in them that no matter what people say, my self-image or my self-esteem will always be positive. So our goal in Selfie, for instance, is to constantly let our students find a positive self-image on them because, again, self-esteem comes from you. So you decide how you want to look at yourself. That's self-esteem. So There's a lot of factors that will limit your growth to self-esteem. So you get that fullness of your self-image or your self-esteem the moment you um, dig deep within you and you are strong enough and you've faced so many adversities, and you've been able to deal with a lot of judgments, and you get past that, right? Because
But how does one get past that? I mean, like for example, if you're a child who's been exposed
yeah, exactly.
to all the negative stuff, you can't do this, you can't do that, you're no good, and all
There's
that
so
stuff.
many people
So for
who
all
are
those
suffering
for all those
because
years,
of that.
for
There's
all
so
those
many,
years,
yeah.
and then for you to say that you can turn that ship around is kind of a daunting task, to be honest with you.
In fact, you cannot last 10 years in the television industry if you're not that strong enough to face that kind of challenges. So,
So how
it
do you
goes,
how do you teach a person who has a very low self-esteem, very shy? Because I imagine that you, of course, being a personal example of how you were able to turn things around through your grandmother, from a shy little girl to a lovely woman who is exuding self-confidence right now in front of the camera. So, but how do you impart that to in a classroom setting, for example?
So
Is that even
the
possible, Blinky?
the thing is, anything is possible. Anything can be taught, anything can be trained. Just like me, I never thought I would do such thing as, hosting, because you just have to also consider that you are trainable. That means
So what would you tell
it
somebody right now?
entails open-mindedness,
Wh- uh,
that you can do a lot of things. So self-belief is equivalent to self-confidence, right? If you combined a good self-esteem and a positive, belief in yourself, which is self-confidence, that's like the ultimate bridge to success. So having both, you have to establish strong foundation of both. So what I teach them are just, basic fundamentals. We do it in a training setup. We have, like me, I have problem with socializing in the past. I don't know how to communicate, right? So we make sure the environment is already conducive enough for them to actually come out, um, make it natural to have that environment, being around with people. That's the first thing. You have to be comfortable. And I know for sure that those who are suffering in self-esteem will find that uncomfortable, especially those who are introverts. They don't like socializing, but that's important. That's how you test yourself and discover and explore what are your strengths and weaknesses are. You have to be around people. That's why my training is usually a group dynamics. It's a group exercise. It comes with in a form of classroom, like 30 people, 30 students. So if you come into our module, your classmates will already be your own audience as you develop your skill.
Do you also
So
come
y-
across problems like people with too much
oh
self-esteem?
gosh.
Because I think if you have too much of that, you
Yes.
become a
The
narcissist,
goal
right?
is to be at the natural
So how,
state.
how do you not get too much? What if a student comes to your class and then learns it so much, and what happens is he becomes like this narcissist
Yeah.
instead of just somebody with a okay self-esteem. So how do you set parameters? How do you set limits for self-esteem?
Exactly. So there's a
Hey,
fine
you can
line
be confident. You can be but not too
over,
confident.
yeah. Now
So
there's a fine
how do you
line
teach
between
that?
arrogance
Yeah, exactly.
and confidence.
How do you teach that?
So again, yeah, we go back to looking, for example, when you talk to a camera, and there's a proper way to say words, or the delivery, for
Okay.
instance, that sounds already very arrogant, or it sounds way
Wait,
too.
do I sound like I'm arrogant right now?
No, not arrogant. Maybe how do I say it?
Overconfident?
Overconfident at it. You can see it, like for example, in modeling, because that's the platform we use. Let's have that as an example. So in walking, for instance, it's over already if you when you overdo it, I guess.
Like you walk with a
Yeah,
swag, right? With like a chip on
it's-
your shoulder.
Yeah, when it's too much, when it's being
if
delivered
it's a
in
modeling setting, but we're talking about just
Okay,
walking across the room, for example.
across the room. Yeah, okay. So when you enter a room, I've learned this also. No, this is
Maybe you can teach us how to walk properly in front of
Here?
the camera. Why not, right? So how does one walk properly with confidence across the room, just from point A to point B, maybe until that point? Is that okay?
Seriously?
Yeah, sure. Why not?
Okay,
So how does one walk across the room the right way? Is there a right way of walking across the room, by the way?
there is
Okay,
actually.
okay.
So everything that you do is how you present yourself. So with the moment you enter a room, for instance, and you walk in such a way that is quite intimidating to a lot of people.
There's so many eyes watching you, or at least this is a room full of people with maybe they're just sitting down there. Imagine USC and the bench boys area there, and then you're just walking across the corridor,
From here?
just from here to there, because that's the only part that we can see the camera. From here to
Okay.
there, yeah, until that point, yeah.
Okay, I guess when you I can't see myself.
Okay.
I guess when you there's even a proper way of sitting.
Okay, just sitting down, yeah.
Okay, so I can't.
Okay.
I can't do it with this
Okay.
parameter.
Okay, so
So-
just sitting. This is a proper way of sitting down, for example.
Yeah, like you wanna look prim and proper.
Mhm.
Of course, first impression is so important. So, good posture,
Hmm.
standing, walking, posture is so important. So when you stoop down, it already speaks of low self-esteem and low confidence level. That's why heels exist for ladies because it adds a boost of confidence.
Wait, don't men need self-esteem too? Why don't we have heels too?
Well, you can try. Just kidding. No, that's meant to for the ladies because
So this whole self-esteem business with social media now, with Facebook, Instagram, and all these things, where people are judged immediately.
exactly.
You know, when you post something,
everything
you're being
it
judged.
takes a lot of courage now to post something because
And then you take
you're
selfies,
a subject for
and your
discrimination
and your camera has so many filters, and you look beautiful, so your self-esteem is boosted. But that doesn't
Yeah,
really
it's
look
just
like
a
you.
facade.
That doesn't really look like you in real life.
Yeah.
So you have this false sense of who you are and how you look, and how does one navigate through social media, and how does one sort of not be crushed, at least their self-esteem not being threatened,
Affected, yeah.
affected with Facebook now and all that stuff.
Okay, so well, for me, in my own way of doing it, I always also tell this to my students: focus on your own journey. Like to begin with, why are you having it? What's your intention? Why do you need social media in your life? Because not a lot of people are happy exposing their life, right?
Correct.
So it's all about your happiness at the end of the day. You do you. If that will make you happy posting those things, and then by all means do it. If you're ready, you have to be ready for all the people to also say something about you, good or bad. The thing is, whatever people say, you have to take it constructively as well, right? So if there's something that, for example, there's a negative comment, because nowadays people can comment. They
Yes,
have,
of course. In fact, they're
they
making a
have the
comment right now.
platform to
They're making a comment right now.
what
about,
is it
about you, about you not having a head
during the walk.
in the walk. What happened to Blinky's head? It disappeared.
It's just so happened when I started, like we were talking about this earlier, that I was part of the non-traditional media, and then the digital took over. So I was glad to be able to ride in the transition. So I was able to see the beauty of it. There's a beauty with using it as a platform, because everything that we do beyond social media, whatever we do like to succeed, we always have to know how to market ourselves. That's why we need to be confident in ourselves. Because when we present our skill out there to the world, when we market ourselves, when we sell our skill to people, you need to be confident about it. The beauty with social media is it becomes a platform for you to be easily marketable, right? You can use it in your advantage. You can like
Whatever it
like
is that you do, right? This is actually
whatever skill you have.
this is what I tell
you
my kids
can
all the time.
Put it out there, and people can discover you.
Yeah.
You can turn it into a
You,
business.
you can be a doctor, you can be a carpenter. If
Yeah.
you're able to express yourself in a social media platform, then your career will be so much more exposed.
more relevant to people, and you become
probably
more
get more business as well,
inspiring.
right?
Yeah, you
In the
become more.
process.
It's easy to create a name of out of your skill now. Before, you have to really prove a lot to people.
But how do you not get crushed when you see the negative comments? Because the thing with social media as well, Blinky, is it's you can hide under the guise of a pseudonym or somebody else's account and all that stuff. So you can just blabber away without really having the consequence of having to deal with a person personally, right?
Yeah, yeah,
so
exactly.
In a real life setting, I can't say crap about you. If you were in front of me,
person,
right?
yeah.
But because it's social media, I can say whatever the hell I want to
Yeah,
tell
that's-
you, like whatever. So how do you deal with situations like that when the person is dealing with so much negativity, so much bullying online that she doesn't know how to deal with it and gets crushed and gets into a tailspin,
Okay.
goes into a tailspin.
Because that's something that you cannot stop, right? So it's uncontrollable. Focus on what you can control. That's just it.
Which part can you
Which
control?
is why you begin that social media to begin with. Why, or what's the heart or the purpose beyond doing what you're doing? If you're just there to share.
So what's the right purpose for using social media? Is there a right way of
Again, it goes back to what makes you happy. If you want social media, you want people to see your life journey in the palm of their hands, then you can do it if that's what makes you happy, right?
So it depends from person to person.
Yeah,
So
you have
go,
to
so
realize.
you go back to the reason why you're doing it,
Yeah.
and then see why the negative messages or posts would affect you negatively or adversely.
So it wouldn't affect you anyway because you're there to you wouldn't care much anymore because you're more focused on your personal journey.
Okay.
Because for you, your platform is what makes you happy. You post that photo, okay, fine. You cannot please everyone. That's a very given fact. Then again, you cannot please everyone. They comment and say bad stuff and all that probably.
For example, I'll give you a classic example. Somebody posts something about her, maybe attending an event, and she posts a photograph on social media, and somebody posts something like "you're too fat," something like that. That's crushing for especially for a young mind, right?
Yeah,
So how do
that's
you
true.
deal with something like that?
Okay, so
You delete the post and then what?
actually you can delete it.
Of course you can,
There's
but-
an option to it if that's the way for you to, make yourself feel better.
Okay.
Because you don't want it to affect your day and all that. That's just the point. Focus on what you care about. If these are the things that can just lower your self-esteem, then don't dwell on it. Just have to. That's why for me, it's important to have a passion. Because you have to divert everything in a sense that you become more productive. This is where I usually, this is my own way of training myself. So there are times that I become so sensitive with all those, there can be negative stuff being thrown at me, for instance. I divert that
Okay.
attention from focusing on negativity. I
Okay.
divert from
Give me a
that.
classic example.
For example, okay, that's why I do a lot of things because I want to focus on that. I want to focus on something that I'm passionate about. And I use social media as a platform to share my passion. So whatever other people, negativity, they don't like, me for some reason, that's just them expressing what kind of people they are.
Okay.
It's not necessarily about you. So all the comments, you have to realize that if they are trying to attack you with your physical attributes, that's them having issues with themselves. Because you're happy. You're showing people that you're happy with your body. And that's the most important thing. You being happy. So you always go back to your self-esteem. That's why diversions are important for me. So
So if you see something negative that's being posted, on social media.
I don't dwell on it.
So you divert.
I divert
you don't
that
con-
attention
so when you
by
say
doing something more productive. That's why I do a lot of
So,
things.
but is that other diversion that you're doing, is that related to the post or not?
It's not related to the post
Okay.
because it should be all about developing.
But there's got to be a sort of like a mechanism in
On
which
what?
you teach a child, for example, how to deal with negative comments, negative posts. So I don't know. So your technique is diversion, right? So you read something.
Okay, this is something
Yeah.
pilosopo ha.
Please, by all means.
Okay, pilosopo nga
Pilos-
style.
okay, sige,
Dili
sige.
sila nagpakaoni mo.
Okay.
That's just it.
Okay.
Why do you care much about how they, they see you, or why do you care? Why care much about their opinion when in fact
They didn't feed you.
they don't feed you? That's just
Fair enough.
It may sound
Pilosopo?
philosophical, but it's
the truth, right?
Actually, it's applicable. You can apply that with that kind of situation.
Blinky, you've been exposed, like you said, you were lucky enough to be exposed to the traditional old media
That's just
and the new media, right?
Ay,
In
nako.
your own career, Blinky, as a
You have to be resilient. Negativities are around.
okay,
Just have to
in your
pass
career now as a media sensation, an influencer,
Media sensation na
sige
siya.
lang good, sige lang good. How has the internet?
Wala, gamay na kayo kong followers. Uy.
How has the internet? How has the internet changed you and the world around you? What have you observed?
You know what?
Because
There's-
you were in that world before the
Okay.
internet, right?
Yeah. It's a nice creative outlet to begin with because for me, I'm naturally creative. I love doing anything that has to do with creativity. So I can't be stuck in one corner at all. So social media is a nice way for me to express my creative side. Like even photography, like when I promoted, can I mention the brand?
sure, Fuji.
So when I promoted Fujifilm, it was a totally different world because I was always the one in front of the camera, right? Because of the modeling, you're the ones posing. It's a different art. But once you have that gadget in your hand, it's a totally different creative world where you can, experiment, and it's a fulfilling thing when I see my creative output and I share it online and people love it. It's also another way for me to be happy.
How about with the
So-
world around you, Blinky? It is, on a personal level, it is your way of expressing your creativity.
Yes.
But how about the world around you? Your folks, your friends, your family, your students as well. How has it changed them? Because it looks like, of course, not everything about the internet is good. It also has got its ugly underbelly, right? So how has it changed the world around you, Blinks? Your students, for example, are they better off with the internet? Aren't they too distracted from your classes because they're thinking about if somebody will like their post and all that stuff? Is the world a better place to live in now,
with
especially
social-
in the academe? Now that we have Facebook and Instagram and the other social media outlets.
There's always a downside of everything that's being used too much. So I guess with social media, there's a very, very huge amount of advantage as well when it comes to our this platform, for instance, because when you use it, for instance, and you project your self-image out there, and then you use it as a platform, right? You can inspire people. You know what I mean? You can do. You can also seek inspiration out of social media, but the downfall of that is the comparison. It's really the comparison. That's the thing that makes people suffer from self-esteem because they see, the progress, the success, because you rarely post about your negative, life online. You're always bragging and sharing about. I have an uncle who hates social media because for him it's just bragging. It's just all about bragging, telling people how successful you are, how good you are at this and blah 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 blah. See, everyone has their own perspective. But then again, how do you deal with it, right? That's the question. So you still focus on your personal journey. Like for me, I upload something. If I just get 100 likes, I don't care because again, I use it as my form of creative outlet to be happy. It's for me. It's something internal. If I was able to influence people to also do the same or to be inspired by what I do, like for example, fashion. I love fashion as well. I tend to love posting my outfits when I do hosting, and people also get inspired by just a simple, OOTD, for example. So it's a nice form to actually go out there and, share yourself to the world.
So
But it's just, it takes a lot of courage because not all people are, again, strong enough to not take all the negativities around them, affect them. And it leads them to, suffer from low self-esteem because they're too sensitive about what other people say. I even have a point in my life that I said, oh, I'd rather just, keep my account private maybe because I'm exposing myself too much. But then again, I don't want to live in a world where I'm of no use. I don't create some sort of an influence in my own little way. So that's why people sort of follow those who consider themselves as an influencer because they influence and they allow people to not really follow them completely. That's just, following what they do, but you get inspired by them.
is the internet, is Facebook and Instagram and all those other social media platforms, is it good or bad for the students? Because I know there was an issue back in a few months ago about not being able to use your cell
But
phones.
that's the thing. There's no stopping from it. You just have to embrace it and learn how to navigate and take advantage of it. You know what I mean?
So what are you saying, that it's not
Like, for
it doesn't
example,
matter
in-
if it's good for them or not because there's no stopping it, so you have to deal with it? Is that what
You
you're trying to
have
say?
to deal with it.
Okay.
Look at the what do you say? You can use it to your advantage by all means. So I teach marketing as well in school. The digital platform has changed the landscape of marketing. So I teach that to my students. We have to embrace it because it's already there and it's even growing every day. There's a different, there's a lot of different, what do you call this? Technology or advancement that we need to even keep up with every single time. But then again, it also helps a lot of my students in terms of them eventually creating their own business. They can use it as a marketing platform. We can't deny the fact that it's really there for a bigger purpose, right? But you have to consider that it's also a make or break deal in terms of your self-esteem, right? So you have to still focus on training yourself, I guess, to be strong before going out there. It's a jungle out there.
Exactly.
You're
You're exposing yourself to 7.6 billion people,
exactly.
right? Not just your friends.
The moment you post something and you delete that, it's someone already pasted it or copied
The
it.
internet is forever.
It's forever. So you have to always be mindful as well. And that's why in our workshop in Selfie, we have a module that's image development because we also want our students to be very careful in dealing with whatever they post online because it's there forever. And when you apply for a job, for instance, people don't just look on your resume. They also check on what's happening on your personal social media accounts because that's how people judge your personality and how you present yourself out there and online matters because again it's a reflection of who you are as well. How you present yourself online is your self-image that you're trying to project to people, which is exactly affecting your self-esteem. So every time you post anything at all, may it be just a status, not even a photo, you share your thoughts out there.
Expose yourself.
You make your brain naked.
You expose yourself. That's what's happening.
And you have to be in control of that because not all thoughts are meant to be shared. That's just what I want to express out here because
So what thoughts are meant to be shared and what thoughts are not meant to be shared? Give me an example.
Okay, for
Give me
example, your problems. Personal problems.
Okay, what if you're looking for a solution and you can't find anything around you? So you
No,
post it.
especially-
I am looking for somebody to unbreak my heart, for example. So so you post it on social media. So that's not a good thing.
Well, it backfires. It backfires.
So your problem.
Everything that you post online, good or bad, is taken against you.
So your problem should not be on social media.
yes,
Okay.
anything that you
So what should be in social media? What should I post in social
it
media?
should be anything inspiring.
Anything inspiring.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's just for me. That's why if I have anything that I deal with personal problems or anything issues, I don't like sharing it because this is just my opinion. Okay, sometimes in your life's journey, you're being taught of something. You go through something that's really depressing or really sad, and then most often than not, we try to use social media to perhaps share
Mhm.
whatever that phase in your life is going. I mean, whatever you're going through in that phase, sorry. What if you are just meant to learn that phase for yourself? You know what I mean?
Mhm.
You don't have to share everything online. That's just really the bottom line of things. You don't have to share everything online.
The way in which we deal
Keep
with
something to yourself as well,
the way in
because
which we deal with each other.
when you share too much, there's nothing left of you anymore.
So don't overshare.
It's just for
Just
me.
enough.
Yeah, it's just for me.
Yeah. I'm sure people
Because it's really tempting. You have so many apps that wants you to share.
exactly
Like
because
even,
that's what it wants you to do.
yeah,
It wa-
that's the point why it's there. It wants you to share
It-
everything.
the program, the algorithm of social media of Facebook and Instagram is for people to be engaged. The word is
Yes,
engagement,
yes,
right?
yes.
So the more outrageous, the more ridiculous your
By
post
all
is.
means, if every day
the
you have
more
a
posts,
content
yeah.
that is inspiring,
So the
that
problem
is
the problem with
encouraging,
the problem
positive.
with censoring yourself, Blinky. The problem with censoring yourself and not exposing yourself too much is whatever you post. If you really want to use it as a marketing tool, isn't so interesting.
Yeah,
It's boring.
that's
you know,
true.
like
Content is so important with
so,
people who use it as a marketing
if
tool.
if we see all these huge these giants in the world of the internet, these influencers like the Kardashians, for example,
Oh,
a
yeah.
really bad example, but an example nonetheless because they have like hundreds of millions of views, right? They just put it out there, every single facet of their life. At least it looks like it's almost everything. They expose it and show it to the world, and it's interesting if it's real. If you're
Yeah.
not, if you don't look like you're hiding something from the world,
Yeah,
so it
that's
becomes
true.
real. So what you're suggesting is you have to sort of like limit what you're sharing. That might get you likes. That might get you
I get
clicks.
it, but if you look at the Kardashian family, they're so not affected with other people, and they're so resilient about that aspect. They're so intact as a family. They've built that strong foundation
an
already.
empire.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of being affected, and they still do what they do until now because that's how strong they are in terms of dealing with all those negativities. I mean, everyone around the world has something bad to say against them, right?
For sure. Yeah.
But they're still
You can
there
love them, you can
because-
hate them, but you can't ignore them.
Exactly, and that's just it. The purpose of them being, being relevant is because no matter what you say against us, we will be successful, and they've proven that.
First billionaire in the family,
Exactly, all the negativities they convert it into something
right?
positive.
They ka-ching it.
They convert it into monetary. They even monetize, even if like they are known to not have any talent, they still know how to monetize their
Non-talent.
their show and their presence, their
I think
exposure.
one of their biggest skills is really being entrepreneurs, right?
They're good entrepreneurs, definitely. I'm not afraid to admit that I follow them
Okay.
because I see the beauty of how well they are in marketing themselves.
But would you recommend them to your students? Would you tell them, hey, you're going to follow Kim?
Well, at some certain aspect, of course, not how they started it, obviously, because it's a very, what do you call this? Inappropriate.
Okay. X-rated.
Yeah, X-rated.
That's
but
that's her claim to
think
fame, I guess.
I think there's so many positive side as well with how they deal with success and they attained success because of their focus. They were so focused. They're so driven people, and it takes a lot of grit as well to surpass all those negativities thrown at them every single day. I mean, the moment they wake up, they hear story about
The
them,
thing with
right?
the thing
But they're so resilient. They still focus on their own.
the thing with social media now, Blinky, is that it has also changed the way in which we deal with each other. It has changed the dynamics of relationships, right? You have 5,000 friends, but you don't know anybody. You're not close to
True.
anybody.
That's true.
So tell me about how it is how are relationships like for you personally
Yeah.
in the age of
You know-
Facebook? Has it changed the way you, for example, go out on dates? Has it changed the way you communicate with your with
Oh my
friends
gosh,
and
Nash.
lovers and all that stuff? Can you tell us on a personal note, since we're talking about something personal here? Personally, how has Facebook changed the way you deal with
I was-
with the relationships?
Okay, so with genuine relationships, you mean? There's a different world out there. I watched this documentary. Sorry, you can't hear me. I watched this documentary about the generation now with social media. It's called Not Alone. Can I say Netflix?
Not yeah, it's okay.
Okay, so I watched it in Netflix, and it's a documentary about kids, teenagers who are suffering from depression and all that, but they're all friends online. You know what I mean? So the bottom line there is, how come we're so connected online, but we are still, we still feel alone,
So
right?
why is that?
Because in reality, when the interaction, the personal encounter is no longer there. Diba? When you're with people, but they're on their mobile phones, so you eliminate that already. So that's why
The human
it is
touch,
the human touch.
the physical touch, right?
Yeah,
The handshake, the hug.
yes, everything about that is already eliminated and turned into an emoji. You know what I mean? And in relationships, it's so funny because there's so many apps to connect to people. It's easy to find a date, for example. I mean, those apps that you can date already. It's
What
easy.
apps? What apps?
Oh, you know what I mean.
Okay.
But that's the point. It's like a menu already. You can just swipe left and right and choose. But also the downside of it, it's now easy to replace them as well. Because again, you can swipe if you're already done with them. Okay, swipe left. I'm done and over you. I'm gonna choose.
Are we
Just until here's my theory of that. We are just all up until a potential to someone. So online we have all those friends, but they're just potential friends. They're not your genuine friends. And all those dating apps, those are just your potential partner, but they're not actually there yet, in the level of being long term. Everything is short term online. You have to admit, because
so
every
has
day
it made us better human beings? Social media, those dating apps, are we better off with our relationships now than ever before, or do you see a crumbling,
okay.
a crumbling of
It
of what
creates-
relationships ought to be, and has changed it with an emoji or with a digital dating app?
it definitely
Is it better or worse?
I cannot say better or worse, because knowing that people embrace it, there's a lot of good things about it. So we're all connected, yes, but it's just how do I say it? It's just a stimuli or a trigger, but it's not long term. It's really just for the time being that you're connected online, and then when you're offline, you're no longer connected.
But most of the people are online
It's just
24/7.
Exactly, but how to measure also real friendship is really going beyond online, right? How to measure real relationship is going beyond online. I mean, like simple things like, why do we greet people online? Why can't we just greet them in person, right? So like, I mean, I'm not against that at all. I do that as well because I want to share to the world how I love my mom or how I love my family. But the thing is, they need to be happy that you posted that, because the dedication should be still for them, not for other people, right? So I guess something online is short-lived. That's just for me. But it triggers a relationship. It triggers friendship. You can meet people online and be connected to them at that phase of meeting them. But really getting to know is a different story, and really going beyond just online is something you decide for yourself, and it's something that a social media cannot give. It's really going beyond online.
Going beyond online. So the natural way of meeting people before social media was,
Yeah,
if you're a friend of a friend of a friend and you'd
Yeah,
like
yeah,
be
yeah.
introduced to that friend of a friend of a friend. So it's
Like for example,
like it's just a web of relationships, right?
Yeah, yeah,
so
yeah.
so I will, for example, I'd like to get to know you, but I don't know you, right?
Mm.
Now I just have to look for you on social media and say hi, or and whatever, right? But
Yeah.
the traditional way of learning about you is through a friend.
It
Let's say this is a
definitely-
friend of mine who knows you, and I go, hey, can you
Yeah.
introduce me to Blinky, please? And then sure enough,
they can
one
just
day,
DM you.
yeah, exactly.
That's
So
the convenient side of it.
the dynamic has changed.
It
How
has
to-
become more convenient for
so
people to.
is this convenience a disadvantage or an advantage? Because now you can know somebody who's completely and totally outside of your circle of friends, right? And maybe that's a good thing, but maybe that's also a bad thing, because
Yeah.
you don't really run in the same circles, and you talk to that guy and you finally meet that guy, and then like you're not tuned to each other, I guess. You're not. So
Yeah, you were tuned online, but in
Yeah.
person it's different.
it's you're like worlds apart, and then why did we do this? Why did we do this in the first place? So it makes me wonder if it's a good thing or a bad thing.
The good thing side of things about the online world is the convenience of it as well. Like, it's easier now to know a person, right? You can just look at their profile and stuff, so you don't have to waste your time anymore, because from the profile you already know that you're not interested with the person, rather than having the need to go out every night, meet people. Like, for example, in a case where you're single and you want to meet people, there's now an app where you can just choose
Okay.
and then chat with them beforehand, and then you can meet if you want to get to know more.
So has that helped you in your love life, Blinky? Like, do you use these dating apps?
um
How is it to be in a relationship in this age of the internet? Has it helped Blinky de Leon? Is it good for you?
Like
Is it
I
bad for
said,
you? Have you met crazy psychopaths
it
online?
takes a lot of risk to meet people from the internet, right? Because these are coming from different backgrounds as well, so you have to be ready as well. And it's quite interesting. You meet them, and then all of a sudden they change your first initial judgment online, and they're more interesting in person. That's nice, right? But there are also sometimes that it's completely the opposite. I'm like, okay, there's no real connection when you meet them in person. There was online, but not in person. Things like that. But it boils down to also personal interaction is still important at the end of the day. So everything online is just really a facade.
How you connect,
A
right?
facade,
I
yeah.
think connection is important. I'm not talking about Wi-Fi connection. I'm talking about personal connection.
Personal connection is still important. Like, you have to see
Like the
eye to
eye
eye,
contact. Yeah, exactly.
eye to eye, and then you have to.
You're not speaking through each other. You're not really
Yeah.
communicating. You're just a bunch of words coming out of my mouth.
It's
and-
different when you really see the emotion of a person as well.
But you can do
which
that through Messenger, right?
It's different when you see it in person, and you see the real smile, and that's how naturally we human beings should connect. And
But our
yeah.
hard wiring in our brains and how it is to connect with people has been overridden by technology.
that's
This
true.
this is not what we were evolved to do. Evolution, as Darwin saw it, is in small increments, and our brains aren't evolved to do this. At least not yet. So what happens is there's like a leapfrogging of the way we connect with people now, and I'm afraid
Yeah.
that before we cross that line, before we understood, and our brain's wiring gets connected to it.
It's a different feeling when you just send a emoticon. Is it an
Emoticon, yeah.
emoji with a smiley hugging, than the feeling of really hugging a person. You know what I mean?
It's different.
It's so
Worlds
different. It's very, very different. So, everything online is just really short-lived,
and temporary.
temporary. You have to know when the right time to be attached at a certain person or people online.
You mentioned the word attachment. Some of our friends,
Yeah, don't get deceived right away with anything online. Those are just words.
exactly.
Yeah.
This,
Anything that's online are just words. The most important value in a human form is really the personal connection that's beyond online. Like even friendships. I mean, I can see my friends, they're just around, but then we just see each other online. It's a different good world when you really go out, when they go out of their
Yeah,
way, they really drive to see you.
it's different, right?
It's different.
You mentioned
You become more you appreciate that more than anything.
you mentioned words, right? And this is what I always tell my listeners and my kids, that words are just a bunch of letters put together to mean something.
Yeah.
And there are no bad words, there are no good words. There are just appropriate words. So if you use that in the context of social media and in human life, in conversations as well, if you really think about it, these are just a bunch of letters put together to mean something. And if you want to analyze that, those whatever it is, unless you're being physically harmed, that's another story, right? But if it's just words, those are just words. So, you know, sure, you can probably get sidetracked or hurt, but those are just words. They're
Yeah.
not really gonna hurt you unless you allow it to hurt you.
That's true.
Is that a correct assessment of what words are, Blinky?
Yeah, you have to create. That's why having a strong foundation is also creating that shield. What you allow yourself to enter, it's up to you. It's also the same with the comments, the negativities.
Those are just words, right?
Those are just words, and if you let it affect you, then it will just.
But why is it, Blinky? Because you're a
make your
psychology
day
student, a
bad.
psychology graduate, right? Why is it that certain people are affected by words more than other people? Some people are more resilient than other people. How's that? Why can't we all just be the same in terms of dealing with words and comments and all that stuff?
That's the thing, because every person has a unique personality, so not all are strong enough. Some people are way too sensitive about certain things. It depends on their experience as well that can trigger them. For instance, there might be some harmful words that would remind them a certain
Trigger words, right?
yeah, a certain
Situation
trauma.
in life. Yeah.
Yeah. So it really depends. Not all people has the same story. And that there's also can I just talk about going to social media as why people are so into it?
Hmm.
It makes them want to do something. You know what I mean?
What do you mean? I don't understand.
Like, for example,
Makes them want to do something.
out of their life. Because you look at your, not really your profile, for instance. It allows you to keep track of what I've done in the past
Yeah,
weeks.
yeah.
How productive am I? And it encourages you.
It's like like a living diary, right?
Yeah, it also gives you some amount of encouragement. Like, hey, a lot of people are doing something out of their lives. Where are you? What are you doing?
yeah.
So it still have the positivity. Like, for instance, okay, you share some stories that you're having fun in a club with your friends.
Okay.
You as a viewer would think, oh, it's just for the sake of sharing that they're having fun. But the truth is, at least they are having fun than not at all. You know what I mean? That's just how I look at things. I use it in such a way that, people can take advantage of it and really, by all means, make something out of their life that's worth posting.
Blinks.
That's just how I use it.
We don't. We are poor judges of ourselves, right? In
Yeah.
fact, we're the last people to know who we are because
True.
we only know who we are through other people. The way you interact with me, the way you look at me, the way people talk about you, the way they comment about you is really the way you understand yourself better than self assessment because you're pretty biased to yourself when you judge about yourself. So it is quite inaccurate in many ways if you try to do that by yourself. So you have to have other people to be able to do that. The thing with social media is this is your way of sort of judging who you are. These comments, these interactions with social media. So is it a more accurate or inaccurate description of selfhood? Like, is this really me? Like, the way they comment about me, is this really me? I mean, am I this person? Really?
Well, it depends on how you take it. It depends on how you take it. I mean, for one, if you're planning to like share something and you are sharing it for the reason of asking people's opinion, then it's a matter of self growth because you're doing it for the purpose. I want to improve something, so I need to hear from you, right?
Okay.
But if you're just gonna post out there and you see all those negativities and take it not constructively, then it will just, diminish your self growth. So it really depends on you, I guess. It depends on how you take it. It depends on how you take it.
You mentioned the word grit, and I think that's a crucial weapon out there, especially in the age of the internet, right? Because you're going to be exposed to a lot of negativity. A
Yeah.
lot of people will, lot of haters. A lot of people will bring you down. Um, is being gritty a teachable skill?
Yes, because the moment you wake up till
You sleep.
yeah, till you sleep, negativities are around, because grit is a matter of choosing what's best for you. You always have to think what's best for you. At that given situation, for instance, you hear a bad comment about yourself. What do you think is best for you to do out of that? That's what grit for me is. Okay, at that moment, it's affecting you. What is the best thing you should do in order to get past it and turn out to be a better person? Then you prove people wrong, right? That's grit for me. So yeah, gritty is being resilient about negativities, finding I'm not gonna say comfort out of being in that uncomfortable situation, but what do you call this, surpassing it and beyond, like also proving to them that you are better than what they think you are, what they think.
Some people actually get inspiration from being criticized.
Exactly.
I know a lot of basketball players who will feed off that. If
Yeah.
they hear something negative about them,
Exactly. That's
you're
their
not,
fuel.
You're not good enough, and so it fuels
It
them.
fuels them to be better people.
So what they do is they prove to that person that
Yeah.
I'm good enough. Are you
Exactly.
kidding me? So it is fuel for some people, but for some people,
Yeah, exactly.
it's not too, right?
For some, it's not as
not.
well, but
That's the
but
problem,
that's the
right?
thing. When there are things that you can't take anymore, I go back to diverting your attention to it. That's why I always stimulate a lot of different, like passion in me. So, for example, like I love creativity, right? I love anything to do with being creative. So, if something that affects me, like let's say, for instance, I'm having a sort of problem with me being a teacher, for example,
Okay.
and it's been affecting me. How can I surpass that it will not ruin my entire day? So I divert to something productive. I do like things like I enroll myself in classes that will make me more productive, that will not make me dwell on those negativity. So things like that. If you are already in that category where criticisms, for example, affects you, then do something that will, not make you think about it.
This is actually what I tell.
Because, you have to always consider your health with your mental,
Yes, of course. Yeah.
what do you call it? Your mental health is really as important as your physical
Exactly,
health.
yeah.
So how you deal with how you think about those criticisms and how you divert all those negative thoughts is really so important, because the moment you wake up, that's why meditation is really emerging into something that people must do. Even yoga, people are embracing it because it's giving a lot of positivity in your mental health. Because again, their entire system depends on how you think, right? So the moment you let that overshadow your positivity in your mind, then it's gonna weaken your entire system. Thus weaken your life.
Blinks, you're in the academe, right? And the educational institutions are there to put to train, to give knowledge to the students, right? To make them better people. So you give them knowledge. You teach them, you educate them, you teach them the new ways of doing things and all that stuff. But there's not a course, there's not a program in most of the educational institutions that I know that helps in taking care of that organ that you put a lot of information to, right?
True.
And it saddens me to know that there are no psychiatrists, there are no psychologists in educational institutions, at least some of the educational institutions that I know. And I think, like you said, your physical health is as important as your mental health. And why aren't we equipped, at least some, if not most, of the educational institutions that I know? Why don't we have these professionals who know how to take care of mental health? Why do you think that is so?
The truth is, your own mental growth depends on you, right?
Of course, yeah.
Okay, so if you need extra help, there's a lot out there as well, who can really.
But don't you want to build that in an educational institution? Because there's a nurse, there's a physical health office,
I
right?
wish there was.
Yeah, but why not? But why not?
I think in a form of classroom setting, for example, it's a formative learning. You can't deny the fact that all the things that a teacher could, share is the effectivity of a teacher is measured by the grades of the students, right? But also, there are certain tasks that will also help them improve not only their knowledge, but also their mental health, for instance. Because, for example, in my own experience, it's a formative training because we are with them from the very beginning of the semester until the very end. So we see certain behavioral patterns that needs to be addressed. So we don't just teach them actually information or educate them about the subject, but we're also trying to hone them in a formative way that will transform them into better people. So the way we look at them in a span of an hour on a weekly basis, like we're always with them basically most of the time. We try to also instill some sort of advice,
How to take care of their mental health.
Yeah, how to take care of the task.
I know you come from a psychology background because you're a psychology graduate, right? But most teachers aren't.
But at the end of the day, let me just finish.
Okay.
At the end of the day, we want to train these students to be independently capable of their mental growth, mental health, right? So whatever they deal with, whatever challenges that goes through their head, we see a lot of our students also, like for example, their moments they become frustrated. We see a lot of emotions bursting, and sometimes I even see my student crying because they're just so overwhelmed with too much task. But the thing is, we're training them to the real world. The real world out there is even, not worse, but it's
a jungle out there, like you said.
There's still so much out there that will, affect you mentally and emotionally as well.
So this is good training ground, in other words.
Yeah, it's just really a good training ground. That's why everything that we teach it's not just informative. We always relate it to life. It's part of our
So
lesson
you don't feel
plan.
the need for a psychiatrist or psychologist because there are
You
certain
have to know how to psychologize,
so y-
psych
psychologize.
psychologize yourself, your own self.
That's difficult. But so so
Um,
do you suggest in an ideal situation would you rather have a psychologist and a psychiatrist, mental health experts as a department in a educational institution?
there's guidance counselors
So
ready
would
to
you
also
are
talk
they
to them.
equipped to help the students
I'm sure they are.
psychologically
I'm
and
sure they are. They've been training themselves to conduct these form of support. But one thing's for
you see a
sure.
lot of students now getting depressed and suicidal and
Yeah, that's
panic
what.
attacks and anxiety, and these are modern problems. These problems used to not be as prevalent as they are today, and I think a lot of that has to do with social media, right? And the way they perceive themselves and all that stuff. And I think now more than ever,
The need,
the
yeah,
brain is under attack.
yeah,
And like I told you earlier, we are not equipped. Our wiring, our hard wiring as Homo sapiens, are not equipped to deal with this information that's just overloading our brains.
yeah,
So we need brain experts, mental experts, to help us make sense of this all. I think.
yeah. I think because it's just creating a lot of distraction in students. That's the also the main point why they feel so anxious, because their focus isn't there anymore. Like they're in the class, but they're thinking so much about what's happening in their social media as well, or what's happening in the internet, what's the buzz, and the interest level. That's a challenge for us because the attention span as well is shortened
Okay.
because there's so much
Do you have more
in the
distracted?
online world that's taking a lot of the attention
You have more distracted
than
students
us.
now. Do they still listen to you?
Oh, definitely, because at the end of the day, whatever grades they put up is because of their their attention as well.
Yeah, but the thing with the internet is it's so graphically stimulating. It's so beautiful to watch, and then you compare it to a classroom setting. You're just a person standing and talking. I know you're graphically awesome to watch as well, but
No.
not as much as in digital
Yeah,
form and
very visual, everything.
in high fidelity and all that stuff, high definition. So isn't it a more challenging world out there for you Blinks to get their attention now more than ever?
Definitely. But the way I address, for example, if I see a student using their mobile phone while I'm discussing, this is how I get their attention.
How?
So I talk to them saying, okay, did you know that what creates anxiety is
Stimulation.
when you have what do you call this? When you overthink,
No.
right? Once you overthink, it creates anxiety, and overthinking can be an effect of too much information. So here I am teaching you something that's very informative, but you're also thinking of something else. Why you use your mobile phones because you're also thinking of other things besides of what I'm teaching. That's why you have that anxiety. So it creates them a sort of personal reflection. Oh yeah, I should focus on what I'm doing now and be present and be in the moment with my teacher rather than just, doing my mobile.
This organ of ours, our brain.
So I let them have that sort of self-reflection. I don't have the job to tell you, you listen to me. You're there because you paid to
Your mom and dad
yeah,
paid.
yeah, you got yourself there because you're being paid, you're being supported in a way. So if you don't want to take advantage of that, it's up to you, definitely. But I'm giving you the effects, the bad effects of having too much information in your mind. You overthink.
Somebody once said that
You don't have
the
focus.
brain is an editing machine, right? All the information that ever was and ever will be are just out there, but we as human beings edit them and then see
We
what's
filter.
yeah. I'd rather call it an editing machine. So
Okay,
it
editing
edits
machine.
the good and the bad and all that stuff. And so we have to better equip our children to how to use their editing machines,
Yeah.
right? And is there like a formula? And like for example, with the prevalence of fake news now, right? If you consume news on social media, you don't know what the hell is true or not anymore. It's difficult to sift through the rubble. What is true, what is not. So is there a way in which we're equipping our students to deal with these things better now?
Oh yeah, there's always a matter of credibility. There's so many.
So do we teach that to the students? How to know whether a news is credible or not?
Well, there's so many different what do you call this, accounts out there that is only credible for certain news, for example. So if it's
Entertainment, for example.
yeah, entertainment purposes. Well, for me personally, the moment I see some news out there, I mean, I don't completely believe it right away unless I look at a more credible account and check on them instead of using that as my
So we're more
only source.
you bring critical, because I remember my daughter told me that.
You can check on it and see where the source is, and then also try to compare and find a more credible one and see if it's really
Yeah,
true.
that's what happened to me and my daughter, because she was telling me that the Amazon is on fire, Dad. Go,
Yeah.
what? I didn't see that on CNN. Maybe that's fake news. And she told me where she found the news, and it was a completely unknown news outfit. That's
But
fake.
did you check on CNN?
And I did, and it wasn't there. See, I told her it's not there, so it's
Oh,
it's
okay.
fake news. Then the day after, it came out on CNN. So I
Okay.
think
it came a little late.
yeah. So I think these big media news institutions, they really
Also-
take a long time to sift through the rubble, because they want to make sure that
It's
news
true
is true or
also,
not,
yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
that's why they don't really get to the news first
That's true.
ahead of everybody else.
You have to see to it as well. They do their own research on it.
Blinky, let's go to another gear. You look
Asa
like
naman saying a gear.
you look like you're a modern woman, right?
Yeah.
2019, Blinky De Leon,
Ah!
formator, media influencer, media sensation, entrepreneur. Blinky, do you want the fairy tale? What kind of a life does a modern woman live in 2019?
There's no fairy tale.
Do you want to forge your way into the world without a man, or do you want the fairy tale? Do you want somebody to sweep you off your feet and live in a castle somewhere? What does Blinky De Leon want?
I want someone to go back to tradition of courting through singing or harana.
Harana.
Joke. Ito ay asa naman na, but my dad used to do that.
Okay.
So anyway.
So
um,
what is a modern woman? Would you consider yourself a modern woman?
I guess, yeah,
Okay.
because
So you
I
want the
embrace technology.
You want the fairy tale.
We all want that. It's like this. I guess the fairy tale ending is only a sign that the kind of happiness that you want is something that's just out of
A fairy tale.
out of the fairy tale, which is completely different in real life. It's the idealistic way of. Are we talking about love?
Of course. What else are we talking about?
It's an idealistic way of being in love, but the reality is you go through challenges. I would want a relationship that would even require having the challenges at an earlier stage and surpass that, and having that strong foundation because you were able to
Go through so much.
go through so much and you're still together, rather than having a good start and
Sweeps you up.
a fairy tale start.
Okay.
And then once the time
A
comes,
horror movie ending?
and then the horror movie ending. Can I just have the horror first
Exactly,
and
right?
then the fairy tale comes in?
That sounds better, right?
But life isn't that way. It's a roller coaster of fairy tale and horror.
Okay.
It's a matter of choosing the partner you can stick around with all throughout that kind of
Challenges, right?
Challenges.
The ups and the ups and the downs, the lows and the highs.
yeah, that's why. So I guess yeah, that's just for me. That's one thing. That's why I'm still single now, because it's hard to find a partner in this time and age because when you're a modern woman, you also want to think about your own success, that you don't want to depend on others. As a woman, you can already do that in this age.
Yeah, absolutely.
You can be an independent woman and be proud about it. That's my goal for now. So if the time comes, anytime that a man could, prove to me that he can overpass or he can somehow over
Would you consider
overlap or I don't wait no 'cause
compliment? How about compliment you?
compliment my life
Yeah.
in general.
Would you consider yourself alpha female?
Yes.
So a lot of men are intimidated by alpha females, right? Let's just say let's
That's
have
how people look at it,
let's have a thought
my
experiment.
friends would say, you're an alpha, that's why. And really?
let's have a thought experiment, Blinks. You're already forging your way into a path in which you know for sure where you're going. You're confident about it of you achieving it. No. I'm. This is a thought
well,
experiment.
I act okay.
So all of a sudden, a man comes along. The Prince Charming comes along, and what do you do?
Can I have more coffee?
Do you move forward with? There's actually more coffee there. Thank you, Dessert Factory.
Thank you, Dessert Factory.
Kenneth, thank you.
Thank you, Kenneth.
Okay, Dessert Factory. They have a branch here in Velas College. That's where we got our cup of
Yes.
coffee. They also have other branches. This is a nice Italian coffee. So do you forge your way in with man in tow, or do you change your direction and sort of recalibrate your dream?
Okay, that's a thing. You have to sync in a way that both of you are of the same goal, right? You're on the same direction, no matter how different your interests are in terms of your what do you call this? Your dreams and aspirations are. At the end of the day, if someone comes along and then hinders me in achieving my dream, then he is not the best for me because he's not bringing out the best in me. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Some people.
So dream first. So
That's one thing I've learned so far.
So you don't sacrifice your dream for somebody else.
I don't think that's what we should do because you don't want that
the
person.
traditional-
You don't want that person to be a reason for you to regret because failure. Regret is more painful than failure. If you have a dream, you should attain it no matter what. And having a partner should only help you achieve it, not pull you down. That's like the complete opposite of the purpose why your partner is there. He's supposed to support you and bring out the best in you. So I always say, if you meet someone, they can be either good for you or they can bring out a better version of you, but that's not who we want. We want to be the best version of ourselves, right?
Yeah, right. Absolutely.
So that's just how I think of it. If I end up being my best self just by being with myself, I don't mind. If a person comes along and help me with that journey of attaining my best version of self, hop on in. I have no problem with that. It's important that you have to also consider your self-growth in every relationship. You don't jeopardize your dreams. You don't put it aside just because
Of a man.
a partner
Of
is
another
telling you not to pursue it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Life isn't that way. You have to. How can you live out a valuable being? You want to be of purpose as well.
Yeah. So we have this is the Pilosopo podcast. Blink said
Pilosopo.
There's a lot of people out there, especially all those young minds, that would like to find their life's purpose. First of all, I'll ask you, Blinky de Leon, what is your life's purpose? Have you already found your life's purpose? And if whatever the answer is, tell our viewers, our listeners out there, how does one find
Okay.
their life's purpose? What am I here for?
Okay.
So those are two questions. Go ahead.
So for me,
you found it?
when I did selfie, it was so purposeful in a way because the impact of that workshop, I was able to touch so many lives, and I see them, really transforming through the trainings that we have done. That for me is purposeful because I am of use. I am of good use to the community, to other people. That for me is purposeful. So that's why there's no stopping there. I need to constantly do it because you're changing people's lives. You're helping them. That for me is purposeful.
So that's your
And
purpose. That's how you.
yes.
But you found.
Even, you know,
How did you find that? Like because you knew that it was a real problem when you were
yes.
younger.
I see a lot of myself in the people that could relate to me because when I was in Mag TV, for instance, I got a lot of invitations doing a lot of different talks on self confidence. And I saw in their eyes the eagerness to really learn more because I'm only there for an hour or two. And so I thought to myself, having that influence that I'm on TV, I'm pretty much marketable, I guess, if that's the right term, to easily influence them to try and, learn more about attaining self confidence, for instance. So I did that. And then you have to also test your market, right?
Okay.
It was more than just a business for me, to be quite honest. When I first started it, I wanted to make it an impactful.
It was close to your heart because that was you.
Yes, because that's the ultimate thing that I was suffering from. So I'm sure there's a lot of people who can relate to my journey, and so I used that story as the reason why I do what I do. So
How do you encourage
that's why
the young minds out there? How do they find their purpose?
for me, you have to look at yourself and find the weakness that you have. Make sure to conquer it every day. Once you conquer a certain weakness and you convert it into a strength, don't stop there. Find another weakness that you can also convert to strength. Because all those weaknesses, and then once you conquer all those, and then you're able to share to others all those things that you've learned, for instance, or it can be not in a form of a workshop, it can be in a form of a product, anything, because I'm teaching entrepreneurship as well.
Okay.
You can't just put up a business and not make an impact or be of value to people, right? You want your product or your service to be something that people really, really not just want but need as well in their life. And that's where purpose comes in, because they use your products and they use your services because you want to improve their life. So that's how you look at it. You look at your own problem first and find yourself, get past it, find solutions out of it, and then maybe one day you come up with a platform where you can help others. And then for me, you're already doing something purposeful. There's so many ways to create a purposeful life. I've read a book before, Purpose Driven Life. We can go back to even social media. You can use it as a purposeful platform in inspiring people, right? Through your talent. That could be something you could focus on, or you can also...
We're lucky that we found our passion in life early, right? But some people can't, and even at a later age in life, that they don't know what they really want.
Because it's a non-stop journey. You can't wake up one day and then you just know what your purpose is.
But this is
every day, and you can't even stick to one purpose. You can
have
be
many purposes
of a purpose. You can be
multi-purpose,
useful,
like baking soda.
Yeah, like for example, I went through a certain period where I felt used.
Okay.
But I never took it negatively. I always say, that's a good thing. I was of use. That means I was a purposeful person, human being.
Somebody's able to use you in a way, right?
But for me, that simply shows that
your life matters, I guess, right?
You mattered and you were able to help them for some reason. That for me is important more than, monetary stuff. You know what I mean?
This is what I tell everybody
because you always go back to why you're doing things.
For those people that don't know what their passion is, what their purpose is, what they want to do with their lives, I think if you read the papers, if we open the internet, we gravitate to certain issues, certain websites, certain topics, right? that is your passion. That, like, if you go to the sports page all the time, see where you gravitate to when you read,
Yeah.
and then you will find out that is your passion.
Yeah, there's so many things out there that you can find your passion also. Yeah, for instance, that part where you can, search
If
and
your heart
see if
skips a beat when you read
yeah,
an article about something,
exactly, and it triggered or ignite that passion in
okay,
you can use that as a start and then do something about it, that because some passion has something to do with what you love, right? It's doing what you love, and while doing so also creating an impact to others. That's what makes it purposeful. So like I said, start with self-exploration, self-discovery, but you can't do that by just keeping yourself in a box. You have to go out there and discover yourself by being in an environment where there's so much to discover than being stuck in a box, right? Go out of your box. That's so important. And find yourself in a way that you get to discover your passion, right? So it's something that should really come from the heart. It's beyond the skill. It should be something that you really, really love.
you hear that expression, going out of the box, all the time, thrown around. What do you mean exactly by going out of the box? Isn't yourself, isn't that where you should find your passion and not outside of it? Like, if it's outside of the box,
It
then you're no
means-
good at it. You're not. That's not your key skill set. So,
But that's the thing, though. You're not giving yourself a try, right?
Okay.
Whatever your skill set is, that's good.
Yeah.
But
So-
what
so you
about
found that.
other? Yeah,
Okay.
what about other skills that you could potentially be good at, but you're just limiting yourself? Because when you're in your box, you're so limited. I remember I have a student who approached me and telling me, Ate Blinky, I have so many different situations because I've dealt with so many different complex individuals, right? So different personalities, different issues. That's even beyond self-esteem. I came across this student. He was telling me, Ate Blinky, I have an issue with myself because I'm an artist. I'm so good with drawing.
Drawing. Okay.
Okay, so that's how he started it. But also, I find myself thinking of becoming a host one day, an event host. I'm like, so what's your problem? Then do it. But isn't it artists are very, they're supposed to be an introvert or they're supposed to be.
Stereotypes of what artists are.
Yeah, he was mentioning about stereotypes. Aren't they supposed to be just, focus on being an artist? I'm like, hold on right there. Why do you have to be like those people who, the stereotype, the typical artist, when in fact you find yourself interested in other things, which makes you unlimited? Don't limit yourself. Go out there and try hosting if by all means. You can be both. In fact, you can be more than two things. That's why you were mentioning about me wearing different hats. Those different hats I had to earn because I decided, hey, I'm already done this. What's next of me? I always ask myself, what could be something that I can hone? What could be another skill? What
weakness?
What weakness can I still convert to a strength? Because you have the time, you can by all means focus on being an artist. But what if, again, the diversion part, right? What if it's something at that moment giving you so much, a hard time? At least you have an event host to divert yourself to. And, you can be of purpose by being an artist, right? You can inspire through your artwork. But event hosting even, can also be a purposeful job because when I do my events, I mean when we do our events, we put life to the
party.
program. Yeah, and then we entertain people, we make them happy for that short period of time.
We sell sofa.
Huh?
I said
Oh,
we sell
yeah.
sofa because that's what I did yesterday. I was trying to sell sofa.
okay.
Anyway, that's another story.
Yeah,
So,
so things like that.
shout out to our friends from Modern
You
Brands.
can be of multi-purpose.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, a person with a multi-purpose is better than just be a purpose, right?
But
I don't know.
there's a danger there, Blinks. If you have too many hats, you're not
Focus.
excellent. You're not
Excellent.
focused at that
Because-
one thing. Most of the
Okay.
successful people that we know are contemporaries, even those that are older than us or younger than us. They're known for just one thing. You know, like they're no they got good at it because they hammered it away and perfected it, and never stopped until a certain level of success has been reached. So aren't you endangering our young minds out there? Excuse me, who will have to try out everything?
Like I said, you have to reach that amount of success before you hop into
Another one. So
I'm not
what-
saying you do both. You're both struggling in that, field.
Okay.
Focus on one field at a time. Like I said, if you're already you've converted something that you're weak at into a strength, that's the time you move on to the next weakness.
So what is Blinky's weakness now? What are you up to these days, Blinks? What is your what weakness of Blinky de Leon is about to become a strength?
Oh
and
my gosh.
What,
What am I working?
What does the future hold
That's
for
funny
Blinky?
because I thought all the while I have a workshop, I have my own school. Okay, I was able to transform a lot of my students, that I'm already a good teacher. When I joined in the academe in the bigger institution, that the purpose of me actually being part of that school was because I'm so weak at paperworks. And I'm so weak with also waking up early, not a morning person.
Okay.
That's why I took the job, because it made me wake up and be productive, not waste my time. And second, it allowed me to
Get out of your comfort zone.
value every aspect of the paperworks that I do. It's actually very important. They're very vital in measuring my students' abilities. So all of these things I'm trying to hone, and I'm actually glad when I submitted, because it has to have an approval. When I started last year, I'm almost a year now in doing in teaching. Now I'm already past that stage of struggling and making all those rubrics, we call it.
So are you
It's
getting good at paperwork? A year-
almost there? Because you outgrow things that you've already succeeded, and as a human being, you tend to find more things that will excite you. So right now I'm still not as confident yet as a teacher. I'm still working on it. But like I said, everything is a learning process, and it's a work in progress. So I'm not confident at it yet. So that's the thing that I'm weak at, that I'm working on right now. As to what other weakness is
About to become a strength.
yeah, yet to come. I don't know yet what's next of me, what other things I need to work on. I'm sure there's a bunch of lists. But that's just what I'm trying to say.
You're obviously an inspiration to a lot of people, Blinks, and we could
I
talk,
hope so.
we can talk all day about you and everything that is that you do, but I'm sure we have somewhere to go to and all that stuff, and our staff here, they're already
Oh yeah, we've been talking quite a while.
we've
How
been
long did we talk?
I know we've been talking forever.
It's 5:00.
So as a final message,
Tabian, good kayo.
yeah, grabe
That's
nga.
why I have this mole. It speaks a lot.
Really?
They said if you have a mole near your mouth, that means tabian.
Tabihan
ka.
ka, okay. So as,
But you have to be tabian to be an event host.
of course, you can't not have anything to say, right? That's the
Yeah.
worst when it comes to communicating, right? You always have something to say. In
bot
this
ni mo, Jiggy.
in this day and age, in the age of information, in this modern age wherein you can have 5,000 friends and no real relationships,
That's sad.
what is your advice to the young minds out there, especially the young minds out there, Blinks? What do you tell them? How do they become better people, just like Tita Blinky?
I think it's very important that you create a real connection through the things that you do. Like, for example, it should be not just of high tech, but of high touch. This is actually a
Not high tech, not just high tech, but high touch.
yeah, you touch people's lives in a way that you do it out of your passion. So you don't just touch people's life because of what you post. Uh, you have to really be there with them. You don't want to influence them just out of what you share online. You have to really share your entire self and influence them in real life. That's the most important part for me. You do the things that you do. You can share online what the things that you want to share, but the most important element is really the connection, the kind of touch that you feel in the heart that only something personal can give. Things like that.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's more important than gravitating on to buying likes just to make you feel good. Those are just numbers. I mean, for me, to be quite honest, I can live without social media, but I need it for marketing and stuff.
It's part of your
But
job.
you have to think that you have to set your mind as well that that's not what life that's not real life. Know what I mean? That's just your projection of what you want out of life. Real life is really what's beyond social media, what's not the things that people cannot see.
Where can they find Blinky on social media, and what are you up to? Maybe you can plug a few things. I know you're a brand endorser
Well-
of several brands. Maybe you can also tell them about your Instagram, your
Oh,
Facebook,
okay.
and Twitter, or whatever.
So yeah, I'm endorsing some products. That's why I like the fact that they see something in me that's really credible enough to promote their
Be their
products.
ambassador.
Yeah, so I've promoted GD Cosmetics. They're really good with.
Are you using them right now?
Yes, they're. I love their sunblock.
Okay.
Because it's a combination of, or it has a color to it as well.
Okay.
So not only is it protecting your skin, but it also has a like a foundation. So it diminishes your blemish, so you feel good as well. Everything that I promote can help you feel good about yourself. So GT Cosmetics, I also endorse Fujifilm, which is very important. You have to produce quality photos to.
Where can they find that? I mean, like, what's your Instagram or Facebook account?
Yes, you can just check out my accounts. That's Blinky_de Leon. If you wanna follow me, if you just wanna check it, I don't really need you to. I don't force you to follow me. If you find my account interesting enough, then click follow. And then yeah, you can also check out Selfie. We have Instagram that's Self Institute. So Selfie, by the way, is just an abbreviation. It's Self-Esteem Learning Formation Institute. It is a school that helps you develop your holistic self. So we're not really focused on self-esteem only. We're just really trying to give out classes that has to do with self-improvement.
As a final message, Blinks, do you have like a favorite a quote that best describes Blinky de Leon, or what you want to be, or what you aspire to be?
Okay,
and
this is
who is it attributed
very-
from,
Very simple.
or to?
So very, very easy to remember. This is something to do with what I am involved in right now, and with social media and in life. I hope you won't forget this. Fears over fears. I even have a tattoo on that.
Fears over fears. How do you?
FIERC. Be fierce.
Okay. Over fears.
Yeah, it simply means be stronger than what you're afraid of.
Okay.
So
Who's that attributed to? Is it attributed to Blinky de Leon?
I mean, no,
Somebody said that? No.
It's a reminder of myself.
Okay.
Even like, it's just simply telling me that whatever you're afraid of, what goes beyond that fear is a more. I've learned this from someone that once whatever scares you the most is what will bring out the best in you.
Or
Something.
something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
So
don't.
fears over fears.
That's right.
Thank you
That's-
so much.
I still have one
Blinky.
more.
What's go ahead? Go ahead. Fears over fears, and go ahead. We have all day.
In social media, guys, choose to be better over bitter.
Better over bitter, fears over fears. I think those are two incredibly
Very easy to remember.
easy to remember, but very important life lessons, right? Life skills.
Yeah.
So fears over fears,
and be better over bitter.
better over bitter.
Yeah.
Again,
That's how you
Blinky.
deal with negativities.
Again, Blinky, we can talk all day, but we have a time limitation. I think the security guard is already asking us to leave.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so thank you so much, Blinks. Maybe we'll have a part
Yeah,
two of
sure,
this
of
one.
course.
Good luck to you on your
Pleasure.
being a formator, an educator, as well as a
Thank you,
media
Jiggy.
influencer, and your self-esteem
Learning Formation Institute.
learning formation institute. I hope.
I hope you won't get tired hearing me about it.
Yes, of course, and I'm sure we're going to talk to you again one of these days.
Thank you
Uh,
for having me.
And I'm sure by that time you've already conquered another weakness and have turned it to a strength,
Hopefully.
right? And I hope to see you on social media too. You should do something on TV and on social
Oh
media.
yeah, yeah. We need to discuss.
Let's talk about that, okay? Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. Blinky De Leon, thank you. It is always a pleasure. Thank you. Bye, guys. Thank you for watching the
Thanks,
Pilosopo podcast.
Jiggy. Cheers to our.